This is a Crack House Chronicles production.
Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man that says it's time to play that old game of what does this beer think I need from Amazon? It's Dale.
Yeah, bust open a few and get to shopping.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, get to clicking.
It's kind of like a roulette. You never know what's going to be in that box next week.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What the hell's this?
What's in my cart? Oh, my God.
Who ordered this?
What the heck? Why did I think I need that at the time?
No doubt.
Yeah. It's always something, man.
Always something.
What's going on today, dude?
You know it. Same old, same old.
Same old, back in the Crack House.
Back in the Crack House.
Doing an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead and apologize for my stuffiness, but you'll have to just deal with it, I guess.
Yeah, Dale's got some kind of crud going on. But
Some kind of sinus thing going on, dude.
At least you ain't as sick as I was the other week.
Yeah, I don't want none of that.
No, you don't want none of that.
I got a little bit of that, but nothing like you do.
Okay.
Yeah, buddy.
Well, you keep it on that side of the table.
You keep yours over there.
You got any good shout-outs or anybody you want to talk about, bud?
Hey. Look at there.
Dale's got that clap.
Yes, sir. We have a brand new Apple Podcast 5-star review, and this comes from our friend Destiny Richardson 123, and it says, "Amazing podcast. The only thing worse than a bad podcast is catching up on a good podcast and patiently waiting for the next episode. I am super impressed with Crack House Chronicles podcast. I'm very picky when it comes to podcasts because they are what get me through a long day at work, and you guys do not disappoint."
Man, we try not to disappoint.
How about that?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we might disappoint everywhere else, but not here.
No, not on the podcast. No.
But yeah, thanks so much, Destiny Richardson, for that those kind words, I should say.
Yeah, we do have some disappointments and discrepancies sometimes.
Yeah, like last week when I said something about we didn't think that lot was paved, and now thinking about it later, I'm like, we stood there and looking at it all day going, it couldn't damn well was paved.
When we went out to the where they were searching for the
search location
stuff.
Yeah, but I was just looking at the drone photo, and from above it it kind of looked gravelly, but when we went back and looked at the pictures, I'm like, damn, the driveway's right there and it's paved the whole time. I was like,
It's like I said, it's some crappy paving.
Yes, so
it's broken up stuff. Yeah,
I like to correct when we can. I don't like to leave that hanging out there.
We try to keep things factual as much as we can anyway.
Yeah, we do. We don't deal, somebody, matter of fact, somebody told me the other day, they're really glad the way we do stuff. We don't really get in the weeds on that stuff and, hearsay and what's going on around here as far as that. And I said, well, we don't deal in that. We just pretty much stay straightforward, and, people think a lot of things, but we just keep it what we know to be true.
We keep it between the mayonnaise and the mustard.
Okay. Is that ketchup?
No, just don't put any ketchup on the highway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn, we got weird there.
Yeah, very weird.
Alrighty.
Some people know what the mayonnaise and the mustard is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Groovy.
Yep. But if anybody else wants to be like Destiny Richardson, they can go to Apple Podcast and leave a 5-star rate and review and write something in the box, and we'll give you a big old shout out.
Yes, and we appreciate it very much. Helps other folks find us, and thanks for the kind words.
That's it. All right, Dale, after this short, quick break, we'll get going on this episode, man.
Let's do it.
All right, Dale, we are back. And, man, we got a crazy case.
It is.
We got some stuff going on with some bad law enforcement and some other things, and some young girls getting murdered. So it's a tough case.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And you can take a deep dive on this, but we're going to get into it and tell the story about the yogurt shop murders.
Yogurt shop murders, straight out of Austin, Texas.
Yes, and this happened on December the 6th, 1991. And the yogurt shop, the name of it was I Can't Believe It's Yogurt.
You ever been a big yogurt guy?
Yeah, I like some of it sometimes.
Yeah. We went to, what I comically call it, the Sweat Frog, when that was the big thing. Sweet Frog was the big thing there for a while, and we'd hit it up. I thought it was pretty good. And by the time they put one around here, the phase was kind of over, and it was short-lived. But
yeah,
other than that, you might grab one at the grocery store or nothing, but I'm not really hitting the yogurt stores.
Yeah, yeah. But this was I Can't Believe It's Yogurt. Do you remember the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt?
Kind of more the TCBY. I remember.
Yeah.
The country's best yogurt, whatever. But I never went there either. But yeah, I do remember it.
Yeah, but this was a yogurt shop in Austin, Texas. And it was located the 2600 block of Anderson Lane there in Austin, Texas. And it was this day, December 6, 1991. This is when 17-year-old Eliza Thomas This girl was getting ready for work. She was putting on her uniform to go to the, I can't believe it's yogurt shop.
She had to go in about 7 o'clock that evening, I think.
Yes, she did. And this yogurt shop closed at 11 p.m.
Which seems awful late to me.
Yeah, and this is going to play a little bit into this.
Right.
It's actually going to play a lot into it.
Yeah, when we first dove into this, I think we first seen that maybe she had went to work at 8 o'clock, or one of these girls had to go in at 8. And I'm like, man, that seems like it's awful late to go in and work for a high school kid. Because I was thinking, probably close at 9, but then when we got into it, see, they actually closed at 11, which, I don't know, seems late to me.
Yeah. But Eliza, she was getting ready for work. She put on her uniform, and she went to work for a 7 o'clock shift.
That's right.
Yeah. And when she got there, an hour later, this is when her friend Jennifer Harbison came into work. She came in at 8 that evening.
Oh, okay.
And Jennifer was also 17 years old, and they were both seniors in high school.
So one came in at 7, one came at 8?
Yeah. I
okay,
guess
that's why I was confused. Okay,
kind of like a staggered
shift.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Gotcha.
And Eliza actually helped Jennifer get this job at the I Can't Believe It's Yogurt.
Okay.
Yeah. And these girls were trying to make some extra money. They both had vehicles they were paying for, and they were very responsible young ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Eliza, she had a lavender-colored Carmen Ghia.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that sounds fancy.
Yeah, that she was making payments on. And Jennifer, she had a Chevy S10 truck that she was making payments for. Her dad got it for her, but she was helping make the payments.
Yeah.
Very responsible, man.
I figured they really have a pickup trucks when they were big farm girls and in the FFA and all that.
Yes, they were. And they were starting their shift that evening, just doing their normal thing. And earlier that evening, Jennifer, the one that went in at 8, she had actually taken her younger sister, who was Sarah. She was 15, and her friend, her name was Amy Ayers.
Yeah, they went to go hang out at the mall, right?
Yeah, the North Cross Mall, which is about 2 blocks away from this yogurt shop.
Remember them days.
Yeah, and this mall was huge, man. It had an indoor ice rink, skating rink, and movie theater, and just amazing.
Back in the day, man, it was incredibly cool.
Yeah, them mall rats just hanging out, having a good time. Probably going to arcade and
good stuff like that.
yeah, that's just cool. Yeah, love to be able to do that again.
Nostalgia, man, we love it.
Yeah, but like I said, the 2 younger girls, Sarah and Amy, they were at the mall, and Jennifer and Eliza, they were at the yogurt shop working, doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere at about 9 o'clock, Jennifer, she took her break.
So you worked an hour and got a break.
Yeah, she went back to the mall to pick up her younger sister, Sarah.
Do we know how far this is away from the yogurt place?
About 2 blocks.
Oh, okay, so
It's
pretty
just
easy.
about 2 stoplights away.
Gotcha, okay.
So she went to the mall to pick them up and actually brought them back to the yogurt shop.
Right.
They were going to hang out there because after they got off work at 11, they were all going back to Jennifer and Sarah's house for a sleepover.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The 3 girls. Eliza wasn't involved with this sleepover, but they were all good friends.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what was going to take place. So when they got back to the yogurt shop, the 2 younger girls that had been at the mall, they went down to Mr. Gaddy's pizza place, which sounds like an amazing place just by that name.
There used to be one in Gaffney.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a pizza place and it had a very large arcade and some other stuff, and you could just, go play games, then go back and eat some pizza and just kind of run around. It was cool, yeah.
Yeah. But they had went to the Mr. Gaddy's to get this pizza because I think they closed at 10 o'clock.
Right.
And they got this pizza and went back to the yogurt shop.
So chill in there and eat your pizza.
Yeah. And what they were going to do, they were just going to hang out there at the yogurt shop until the older girls got off work.
Yeah, I think when they was there, they probably helped them shut down a little bit and clean whatever they could do. I guess.
Wipe tables, wash some dishes.
Yeah.
And
simple stuff.
yeah, and what they're supposed to do.
Right.
So shortly before closing, there was a woman that entered the shop. And she was actually picking up some yogurt to take home to her husband. Mm-hmm. I think he had some dental work or something. He was wanting something cool in his mouth, I guess, to relieve the pain.
So this yogurt's more like ice cream,
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. But she...
Frozen yogurt, I guess.
Frozen yogurt, yeah. She entered the shop, and there are 2 other guys in the store. They're customers. And for some reason, they make her kind of uncomfortable.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah. She describes these 2 teens. They're facing each other at a booth, a side booth, but they aren't eating any frozen yogurt or anything. They're just sitting there, and I think she said they had a soda with them they were drinking. But these 2 guys, they were kind of focused on some kind of bag or sack between them that was on the table. And she described as one of the boys having darker skin, maybe being Hispanic.
Or maybe just very tan.
Could have been.
Right.
But this guy, he had something in the sack, and it seemed like he was just shaking around. It sounded like maybe some change or even some marbles in the bag.
Okay.
And she also remembered, asking the girls if everything was okay, and them being alone with these guys. But the girls seemed fine.
Right. They're probably used to people just coming in and hanging out.
Probably. But the girls, she described them as being chatty and happy, and they were just, doing their normal routine. They weren't being paranoid or anything like that.
Well, they was probably focused on getting done so they could go do their sleepover.
Yeah, and have their girls' night.
Right.
But she ends up leaving the shop, and later there's another couple that comes in, and they come in while the girls are doing their pre-closing routine cleanup. And it's a man and a woman, and that's when they notice two guys sitting at a booth.
Is this two different guys?
I suppose maybe the same guys, but they're sitting at a booth, and the one that's closest to the register. If you go in, like on the left side, we're going to post pictures on this, but if you go in on the left-hand side going in, there's a row of booths along the wall.
Okay.
And they were sitting at the one closest to the counter.
So the door is kind of to the right instead of being centered on the store, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go in, everything's sort of toward the left.
Correct. Because the right would be a wall, I would think.
Mm-hmm. But they noticed these two guys sitting at this booth that's on the left side.
It is odd they're sitting right beside the register.
Yeah.
Well, not odd, but, coincidental.
And there in this yogurt shop, there's basically a long counter, and then you go through a doorway to a back room. So this couple says when they walk in, Jennifer was out in the lobby cleaning up, wiping tables, and just doing her thing. And Eliza was at the register. And they didn't know it at the time, but the two other girls, the young girls, they were in the back. I guess they were eating their pizza and maybe cleaning up back there.
Right.
But, she said she didn't see them, and they didn't
This
hear
is the lady saying that they came in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And this couple, they got their yogurts, and they sat down, but instead of taking it to go, the woman said she kind of was eavesdropping on the girls as they were chatting, just doing their thing. And the men were eavesdropping as well, what she said.
A whole lot of eavesdropping going on.
Yeah, because they weren't really talking to each other, but as far as she could tell, they weren't eating or drinking anything. And she said this was kind of strange for her.
Yeah, you'd think. It's not like they're waiting for him to cook them some food or something.
At some point, too, before closing, there was a guy, last name was Croft. He came in the store, and he was with two other people, but they remained out in a vehicle. But this Croft guy, he was former police officer, but he was working as security. He had his own security business.
Right, private security.
Yes. And he came into the store, and there was a guy in front of him at the counter. But the guy looked back at him, and he looked outside could see the vehicle he was in. It looked like he had some lights on it.
Right.
Maybe.
Looked like a police car.
Yeah.
It was a quick glance anyway.
And the guy even asked him if he was a police officer. And he said, no, I'm just I work at a security company, and this is my security vehicle that I have.
That's weird you'd ask him that, didn't you?
Yeah, it is. And the guy even offered to let the officer
Go in front of him?
Go in front of him. But he said he was still ordering, still looking at the menu, so he told him to go ahead.
I bet that put up a flag in his mind right off the bat, being former law enforcement.
Probably did.
Because, wait a minute, why are you asking me this, and then you want me to order first so I can leave?
Yeah. But the guy did order, but he didn't order any yogurt. He just ordered a drink, a soft drink. And Eliza rung him up and put the drink in a paper bag or some kind of plastic bag.
Now, this place is like in a strip mall, right?
It is.
So it's just, and I wonder if that's like the only thing around there maybe where you could grab a quick drink or something if you're going to the other stores or whatever.
Probably because, that Mr. Gaddy's, which was a few doors down, was already closed by this time. They closed at 10. So I bet this yogurt place I'd like to know how many other places were open at that time.
In that strip mall?
That stayed open later.
Probably not many. I wouldn't think
so.
It's late. 11 o'clock is late for a business like this to be open.
In a strip mall, yeah.
Yeah.
Even anything, sub-stores or anything, substations or anything like that. Yeah, very weird. But anyway, the guy ordered a soft drink, and she put it in a bag for him, and he seemed to disappeared from the security guy.
Maybe it was a bottle drink or something.
Could have been.
Because that wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah. But what he'd done, he'd actually asked if he could use the restroom. But they had public restrooms, but they weren't located out in the store. They were located behind the counter. So you actually had to go around the counter to get back there to the restrooms.
Well, that's not sketchy at all.
And we got, like I said, we got a drawing of this.
The whole place?
Yeah, and it shows where everything's located. But the security guy, Croft, he noticed that he disappeared. Where did he get to? And he actually asked Liza where he went and said he just has to use the restroom.
Right.
And this Croft guy, he got his yogurt and even hung out in the yogurt shop for a few minutes to see if he'd come out.
So definitely he had flags raised.
Yeah,
He was
definitely.
worried about these girls.
But he
Good for him.
never came out. But he did eventually leave because he had other orders with him.
Stuff to do,
yeah, stuff to do. But now keep in mind, Dale, at about 10:50 every night before this store closed, there was policy for the store to lock the door, but any customers that were still in there, they could let them out.
Right.
But anybody couldn't come in.
Yeah, I think the other couple left about 10:47 because they knew the girls were trying to get cleaned up, and then at 10:50 the girls go lock the door, and then whoever's left inside, it's fine, but nobody else is coming in.
So just to describe this a little bit, the way this works, there's a key that's in the register, and this key is used to lock the door and unlock the door.
Right.
It's put into the lock, and it remains in there when they do this little process of closing up.
Right. Well, that way when somebody's ready to leave, they can just go over there and turn the key, let them out, and don't have to go back to the register and retrieve it every time.
And lock the door back.
Correct.
But this key, it works on both sides of the lock.
Like a deadbolt.
Coming in and going out.
Yes.
So that's what they did. They had locked the door and they finished cleaning up their stuff. But the girls were still going through their routine of doing their thing. All the dispensers for the napkins had to be refilled, and they were propping chairs up on top of the table and just doing their thing, man.
Getting ready to mop and be done.
Yeah. But something that would come out later is the booth that we talked about that was closest to the counter. The chairs weren't propped upside down on that table, but the rest of them were.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
So apparently somebody was still there.
Somebody was still sitting at this table.
Right.
Yeah. And preventing someone from cleaning it. So really what happened after 10:47, like you said, is really unknown. Did the girls in the shop ask these two men to leave at closing time, prompting them to do something to these girls? Time passes, and it was around midnight. There was a police patrolman. He reported a fire there in this strip mall.
Yeah, I think the guy next door had a party shop or something, and he noticed some smoke, and he flagged down one of the patrolling cops that was coming through the parking lot. Flagged him down to come over and check us out.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And this cop, he called it in and said, "There's a fire out here at this strip mall."
Yeah, I think he went up to the door and looked in and tell his smoke and stuff going on, so he called it in.
Yeah, he did. And the firemen, they got there pretty quick. It was a 2-alarm fire, and they got there pretty quick, and they got in and started putting this fire out. I mean, it was blazing up good, and they was dousing everything with hoses.
Right.
I mean, everything was getting soaked.
Well, that's what you got to do, I mean, it's a strip mall. It is going to burn the whole dang place down if you don't get it done,
Exactly.
Everything's connected.
Yeah. So when they get there to put this fire out, Dale, they actually have to break the door in to get in to put this fire out. Yeah.
So the front doors is locked. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're going in there, soaking everything with water, trying to put this fire out.
Okay.
And they're making their way in, and they get the fire down, and they're going through the smoke and the everything. I mean, it's just I can't even imagine the haze going through there trying to see anything.
Well, it's such a small thing, and the fire going on, it's going to be slammed full of smoke and steam stuff going on.
So the firemen are going through this yogurt shop looking for anything, trying to see where the fire is, where it came from.
Working their way to the back.
They are. And keep in mind, it's very smoked up, and one of them actually looks down and nudges the other fireman.
Yeah.
And asks, "Is that a foot?"
Is that a foot?
Yeah.
Like a human foot?
A human foot,
Yeah,
yes.
not like a 12 inches.
Yeah.
Right.
So they got to looking, and they find a girl's body. Yeah.
So it definitely was a foot. It was the whole body.
Yeah. And they noticed this girl had been placed on top of another girl. Yeah. And then, like I say, you can't see nothing going through there. And then they noticed another girl laying off to the side, just right there beside of them. So they call it in as a homicide. Well, this is when Detective John Jones, he gets the call. Now, this John Jones, he is out that night with a TV crew.
Right. Not only were they were deceased and stacked up, they're also naked and bound.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why he called it a homicide right away, because he knew something was up.
Yeah. So this John Jones, Detective John Jones, he got the call, and he had just happened to have a TV crew with him that night filming about crime in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, doing a ride along for his shift. Yeah.
And they were actually complaining that there weren't anything happening.
Yeah, they were saying, can't wait for tomorrow when we get to go to Houston. Maybe we'll get to see something.
Yeah.
And that's when he got this call.
Yeah. So he rushes over there to the yogurt shop.
And on his way over there, they call him and tell him, matter of fact, it's not 3, it's 4.
4 bodies have been found.
Yes.
Yeah. Because the 4th victim, the younger one, her name was Amy Ayers. She wasn't with the other girl. She was further away in this storage room off to the side.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they didn't see her at first.
They didn't see her at first. That's right. So they go in. They're trying to find out anything that's going on with this deal. Yeah.
It's a bad scene, man.
Mm-hmm. And when they get there, they're checking all this out, and they realize they're not dealing with just a normal fire. So when Detective Jones starts walking through the shop, I mean, it's thick, filled with smoke, and he was pretty horrified with what he saw.
Oh, yeah.
Even one of the cops there had done a tour in Vietnam, and he said what he saw there was as bad as some of the stuff he saw in Vietnam, man.
That's bad.
Yeah. But the girls were all found in the back of the store, and they were generally stacked on top of each other. One of them was stacked on top of the other, and they believe that third girl had been stacked on top of them.
Right.
But the blast from the water hoses probably just knocked her off the top.
That and the intense heat from the fire could have caused some kind of damage.
It could have, yeah. But these girls, they weren't able to be identified at the time.
Yeah, it was bad. You said that you listened to a good bit of the book, and there was actually a book written on this, and you said that they had said that the intense heat was enough that some of their jewelry was actually melted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their bodies actually started melting into the floor. That's how intense this fire was and how hot it was.
My God.
Yeah. But they somewhat realized that all the girls would find it was some form of sexual assault. They were all nude.
Yep.
And their legs spread, and one of the girls actually had an ice cream scoop pointed up toward her pelvic bone.
Right.
Yeah. And there was some problems there because the medical examiner was called in. And he was actually wanting to have the girls transported.
Right.
But with all the water coming in and all this stuff, a lot of that evidence was probably washed away at that time.
Yes.
Yeah. And
well, you can imagine the scene is almost destroyed here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Detective Jones, he was wanting to...
You want him to come in and do rape kits and stuff, do it right there before they do any more damage to his scene.
But and right off the get-go, there was some controversy between medical examiner and law enforcement about the way they were wanting to do things.
Well, this medical examiner was the assistant, right? The head examiner was out of town on some kind of business, so he was working with the assistant. Isn't that right?
That's right.
And he was kind of throwing his weight around.
Yeah.
But I think finally that when some more law enforcement got on the scene, that he was had his mind changed.
That's right. But now, like we said, Amy's body was found in a different part of the shop. She was not burned up as bad as the other girls. She had received second and very early third-degree burns on probably 20 to 30% of her body. And she was found with a sock-like cloth around her neck. And all 3 of these girls had been shot execution style. Yeah, except for Amy, the one that was found further away. She actually had been shot twice.
She had been shot twice.
Yeah. One of the bullets had missed her brain, and the second bullet had caused severe damage to her brain.
So these girls were tied up with their clothes.
Yes, they were.
Much. And I think really what they thought is when maybe after the sexual assault or whatever, and they were shot, that, like you said, it didn't kill her. I think maybe she was trying to crawl away, and that's when she was shot again.
Very true.
And there were 2 different calibers of weapons used.
Yeah, one was a .22 and the other one was a .380.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to go right away with thinking there's probably at least two.
Mm-hmm. Two people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assailants.
But the crime scene was so messed up, no one dusted the bathroom for fingerprints or anything like that.
Which I'm sure that there was, like I said, soot and water and stuff everywhere. But yeah, they said that whoever was in charge of that really only done stuff that she could see. It was a female. They said that I'm not sure what her name was, but she only took the prints that she could actually see instead of going around and dusting and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which it would probably be almost impossible, I would say.
And one thing they did notice, that the back door of this shop, it had a back door that went out behind a...
It was a double metal door.
Yeah. It wasn't locked. It was actually propped open.
So that'll tell you if the front door was locked, then they probably went out the back.
Yeah, because the fireman had to bust that front door in to get in.
Right. So either somebody come in and open that back door, or the back door was already unlocked, or it was somebody who was already in the store before this happened.
Or somebody having to use the bathroom went back there and propped it open.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there's a few different angles you can go here, but they didn't come in the front door after a closing.
No.
Correct.
There was somebody already in the store, like you said, yeah.
Yes, one way or another.
Yeah, crazy, man. But this Amy Ayers, the one that was found away from him, the 22, like I say, on the side of her head had a mark with a 22, but that didn't kill her. And the larger caliber, the 380, was the weapon that was used to kill her. And she also had a bruise under her chin, indicating that she'd been struck, and she had also been strangled before being shot.
And she was the 13-year-old.
Yeah, and it was hard to tell if Amy was singled out for some reason, if the other girls were tortured like this before their death, because their bodies, Dale, they were too burned to show any signs of anything.
So they really couldn't tell if something had happened or not.
No. And the scene was so gruesome. Was it really a robbery gone wrong, or were these girls targeted? Because there was about $540 taken from the register after an audit was done. That's how much they figured these whoever done this, how much money they got.
Well, this part really bothers me, because in my opinion, I don't think it's a robbery gone wrong. I don't know if somebody's going in and rob a store, they're not going to kill all these girls, or if they're going to kill them, they're not going to strip them all down to nothing, stack them on top of each other and all that. They're going to grab the money and go. Even if they shot them, they wouldn't do all that. I think this is another angle, and the $500 is just a bonus payday, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing to prove that, but that's just the way I look at it. I just don't. You don't see a lot of robberies going wrong or not where they ends up like that.
Exactly.
Even if they was going to shoot them and set the place on fire, you know what I mean? They're not going to take time to, let's have an extra sexual assault before we leave to go with our $500 we just stole here.
You think the sexual assault was the motive there?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. But none of this made any sense to the investigators. These girls, they got to looking into them, and these girls had no enemies. I mean, they went to the girls' homes, and they looked, done a check out of their room, done everything, and all they could tell was these girls were pure, man. They were involved with their school, like you said, the FFA.
Yeah.
They had no enemies of any kind, and they were just good girls.
Right.
Yeah.
Wrong place, wrong time kind of thing.
But also, they did notice that the cash register in the store had been, at 11:03, the no sale button had been hit.
So that basically would just open the drawer.
Open the drawer, yeah. So they don't know if that was about, or if one of the girls had done that, or if whoever committed this crime
done it.
Yeah.
Right. That's possible as well. I wonder if they fingerprinted the register.
I bet they could. I don't know.
Maybe that one button, I don't know. Of course, it might have been. Well, I mean, that would have been recorded electronically, so that wouldn't matter. They would know how to do that, but I don't know. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud.
But they were trying to figure out how this fire got started. And according to reports, it looked like the shelving unit there in the back storage area, that was the one closest to the three girls that were stacked on top of each other, Liza, Sarah, and Jennifer. It looked like some stuff had been set on fire there, where it originated from.
I'm sure they had some kind of accelerant if it got that hot that quick,
Yeah. Maybe some lighter fluid or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, I mean, what would be in there that would be extremely flammable?
I don't think it'd be anything. Maybe they had some paper cups or
towels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because mostly, the yogurt and stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure what's in their stock room. But cleaning supplies, maybe.
Yeah, but some of this stuff, it got so hot. These cans of toppings and things that were sealed, they actually exploded.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if it's hot enough to melt jewelry and people, I'm sure it's pretty dang hot.
Yeah.
And I think that metal rack had even warped up, hadn't it?
Mm-hmm. It did. But this Detective Jones, he got onto it. He was the lead detective on this case. And the pool of suspects, man, it deepened. Yeah, it was at one time, there were over 350 suspects on this case.
That's just weird.
And time passes, nothing happens. But a week into the investigation, one really jumped out to these investigators. There was a 16-year-old. His name was Maurice Pierce. And this kid was arrested in this nearby mall, this North Cross Mall. And the reason he was arrested was they found a .22 caliber gun on him.
Yeah, he walked around with a gun in the mall.
Yeah, and then one of his friends actually turned him in, pointed him out.
Well, good.
Yeah, and they come and got him. And he was questioned about this crime, and Maurice started to confess, but not saying that he did it, but he figured that a friend of his had done this crime. This Maurice said that his 15-year-old friend, his name was Forrest Wellborn, he had borrowed the gun that night of the murders, and he was the one that killed these girls. Yep. And this was pretty big to the investigators.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
They're probably like, wait, what?
So they get this Forrest Wellborn in and bring him in to talk to him. And talk to him about the night of the murders. And when they talk to him, Forrest Wellborn swears that he had nothing to do with this crime. He says that the night of the murders that he was with Maurice and two other guys, both these guys 17-year-olds, their name was Michael Scott and Robert Springsteen. And all four of these boys had taken a stolen car to San Antonio, Texas. So not only was this Forrest Wellborn denying this, but there was little or no details for Maurice matched to this crime scene. And the only thing that tied in them this case, was this
because he said it.
Yeah, and this .22 caliber gun that
that Maurice had.
Yeah, that was like the one that killed this girl. These girls.
The same caliber is the only thing they got, right?
Yeah, that's it.
This is just kind of fishy about the whole damn thing.
But when this gun was tested, it turns out that the ballistics didn't match, and it wasn't the gun used at the crime.
Well, what I saw was that all the 22 bullets that they recovered were all just too badly mangled to even match a ballistics to.
Yeah.
So they said that they really couldn't tell if it was the same gun or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have been, it could have not been. There's no way to match it because the ones they had to use to match to were completely, destroyed really.
Yeah. And they found the slug from the .380. They actually found it in a drain in the back storage room. Yeah.
And I think they got a lot of the casings, didn't they?
They did. All the shell casings were there.
Right.
Yeah. So Maurice and the three other boys were just another set of names that this Officer Jones had scratched off his list. But eventually a profile was made of the perpetrators, and it sort of went like this, Dale. They said there were at least two men, and one of these men was a dominant personality. And obviously two of these men were both white in their late teens to mid-20s.
This is the profile, right?
The profile, yes.
Okay.
And one of these men is the dominant one and the one that really pushed this crime forward.
Okay, so you got a leader and a follower.
Yeah. And they think that in school he was maybe kind of like an underachiever. And he'd probably resist discipline and maybe had an explosive personality. And they also said he could probably get angry easily, and even worse,
if he's mixing drugs
and alcohol, yeah. And kind of impulsive and explosive. Yeah. And he's likely to get involved in physical confrontation, but only when
if he's got an advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically he's scared unless he's got a gun or something.
And also they was probably unemployed and maybe have a little menial job, but his history of changing jobs all the time and not super dependable. So this is a big...
it's a pretty wide range of a profile.
Yeah. And they also said could likely live with his parents or maybe some older person. So they've got a big profile on this, who they think had done this. And they also said the person that could have done this was likely abusive to women, or especially to young women. And they think that this is a person that has no remorse, but might be acting strangely because he's super stressed about, this crime. So, maybe whoever done this could be acting different, changing his appearance, or
just acting weird in general.
Yeah.
So that right there tells me that they're not looking for a guy that was looking for $500 in a quick robbery and run.
Yeah. But in the very beginning, Dale, this case took a big toll on Detective Jones.
Oh yeah.
And eventually he had to take a month's leave from his job because he was experiencing some PTSD.
Yeah, and he had young kids himself, so it really bothered him.
Yeah, and a wife, and it was hitting on him pretty hard, and this consumed him.
Yep.
And they were saying, this case isn't cold, but they were looking at all kinds of people.
Well, they had all kind of people coming forward.
Yeah.
And
false confessions. They were
false confessions. Yeah.
People coming forward saying they did it.
There are at least 6 or more, wasn't there, that came in with a written confession?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know how many suspects. It was just crazy, all the people and tips that they got. It was leading them nowhere, apparently.
Yeah. And eventually, this Officer Jones would be pulled off the case to do something else.
Yeah, after about 3 years.
Yeah.
He was promoted to another position, but he just felt like they just took him off and what they told him is they wanted to put a new set of eyes and some other folks on there to look at it and go. But he didn't really like it. They took him off because he had really had so much time into it, and really he'd kind of promised these girls, family, that they were going to find out what the heck went on here.
Yeah, because it's weird. You watch that. There's a 48 hours on this. He had on a green and white striped shirt.
Yeah,
that night.
striped kind of.
Yeah, and he told the family, said, the next time you see me wearing this shirt, I will have an answer for you.
It'll be the signal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Dale, the case goes cold.
Yes.
There's nothing happens, and about nearly 8 years pass by before there's any new developments on this. And in 1999, there was an officer. His name was Hector Polanco. And he was the new lead investigator on this case, on the yogurt shop murders. And the same thing kept popping out to him, those 4 boys. Mm-hmm. And in his gut, he felt that they had something to do with this crime, and he was going to prove it. He actually reinterrogated these boys. They had parted ways. You know how friends come and go in your life. And
right.
One of them moved back to his hometown or home state of West Virginia, and they just weren't hanging out anymore,
Right, well, it's years and years later. So.
Yeah, so he brings these boys back in. He has them brought back to Austin, Texas, to reinterrogate these boys.
Yeah.
But those boys, those 2 17-year-old boys, they were in their 20s now, and they were grown men. And when Michael Scott, one of the 4 boys, he was interviewed, he started saying that he had no idea what happened to those girls, and his memory was terrible. But the detectives, they didn't believe it.
Right.
Yeah.
The Maurice and Forrest, they kind of held firm on them, even after being reinterrogated for hours and hours. They just kind of held firm that they didn't do it.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. And then Michael's like, well, I don't know. I really don't have that great memory, but I don't think we didn't do it. I don't know what happened, but yeah, they kind of pull these other 2 off to the side and just really go at them hard.
Yeah. And at one point, Michael Scott, he's in the interrogation room, and he tells the police, I think I need a lawyer.
Yeah. Twice. He says it twice.
Yeah, and there's audio of him saying this. They're recording all this, but they don't stop questioning him.
No.
They just said, well, let's just talk a little bit more.
Yeah.
Let's just talk a little bit.
And I think, don't he say he won't, I really think I want one. Like, tell you what, let's just do this and you just come back in the morning. We'll talk a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just hours and hours and hours and hours of stuff.
Yeah, when you say you need a lawyer, they're supposed to stop everything.
Right there.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah, now at one point, Michael's in the interview room, and they pull this .22 revolver out.
Yeah.
That was they supposedly used in this murder, the one they pulled off Maurice at the mall.
Yes.
And they show it to him. This is the gun you used, isn't it?
Yeah,
this is the gun you used.
And he walks around him and sticks the gun to the back of his head and says, this is the gun you used to shoot that girl with.
And this is on video.
Yeah. Stuck the gun to the boy's head.
Dude, this is some bad cop.
Yeah, very.
Very bad cop going on right here.
Well, this guy's...
This Hector Polanco,
Yeah.
he's a bad dude because he's very notorious for getting false confessions.
Yeah, well, he's notorious for being the man to be able to get those confessions when nobody else can.
Yeah.
And now we know why.
Yeah, there was one other case that he had done. I told you about this. This was another murder there in Austin, Texas. It was Nancy Priest. She was a manager at a Pizza Hut that was murdered. Yeah, and he got a false confession out of that. And the one that they arrested and sent to prison for 10 years, they proved later through DNA that he did not do that crime.
Right. And he just gets on them so hard and keeps on and on and on and on, and finally they just give up and just tell him what he wants to hear.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what's happening here.
Kind of like, tell us what we want to know, and we'll let you go home.
Yeah. Mm.
And these boys are broke down, and they confess to this murder, man.
Yeah.
These 4 girls in the yogurt shop.
Yeah, and the rape.
Yes. They're going through these confessions, and they're trying to say what happened, but it's not matching up with the holdback information they have.
No, they just keep on and keep changing the angle to try to get them to make their story match what they know.
They ask him, how'd you start the fire? And they're saying, well, maybe I lit some napkins.
Yeah.
Maybe I lit something else.
Yeah.
Just to try to get something.
Yeah. No, that ain't what it's known.
That ain't what happened. Tell us again.
Tell me what you used. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, these boys are so beat down.
I mean, they were in there over 20 hours.
Yeah. Asking them how you raped these girls, how you done this. And Robert Springsteen, he's confessing to these rapes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can tell it in these recordings. This guy is just beat down from these confessions. And asking him how he raped them.
Yeah.
And he's defeated. He finally says, fine, I stuck my dick in her pussy.
And I raped her. Yeah. And that's all they needed right there.
Yeah. And that confession, man, to a jury is powerful.
Very.
Yes.
Yeah, because they don't show them they probably just show them what they want to see.
Yeah.
Here's this part right here where he says it right here.
And with their confessions, this Hector Polanco puts his theory of events, and he says that 16-year-old Maurice Pierce was the mastermind of this yogurt shop incident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Robert and Michael were the ones who pulled it off.
And Forrest was the lookout.
Yes. This theory trickled back to the original investigator, Detective Jones.
Yeah.
And he said he didn't believe it.
He didn't believe it.
And he said
he still don't believe it.
He don't have no control over it because he's gone.
Right.
And it's someone else, it was in someone else's hand. And Polanco took his theory to the prosecutors who would evaluate this case against these 4 boys. And ultimately, only 2 of the 4 guys were taken to trial.
Right. Maurice and Forrest, they never confessed anything. They kind of stuck to their stories and got out of there. These other 2 are just getting hammered, so they do admit to this stuff, and so they're the ones on trial now.
And because there was no physical evidence linking them to the scene of this crime.
Nothing.
You thought would have been really hard to get a conviction, but the prosecutors ended up dismissing all charges against Maurice, citing this lack of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually tried a little bit to take Forrest to trial, Forrest Wellborn.
Yeah, but 2 grand juries wouldn't indict him. They didn't have no evidence.
That's right.
So they had to drop charges on him too. So all you got left is these 2 other fellas.
Yeah.
Michael and Robert.
Yeah, Michael Scott and Robert
Springsteen.
Robert Springsteen. They had confessions.
Yes.
So because of the confessions, it made an uphill battle for the defense attorneys.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, each man had recanted their confession, and they said they only confessed due to coercion, and it was too late for these confessions to be used against them in court. They were each tried separately, and Michael's confession was used in Robert's trial and vice versa.
That's because they both refused to go against each other.
Testify against each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So since they didn't have them to be there, they just took their taped confessions and used it against each other in their trials.
Yes. It was like Michael shows up at Robert's trial and takes the stand.
Right. But but since they wouldn't do that, what they did is they just put their confession up, and there you go.
Yeah.
Now, when they got in there, and the defense tried to point out in the trial that parts of these confessions didn't even match up to the facts in the case, much less each other's story.
That's right.
But, men, they couldn't agree on what was used to prop the door open or anything. Everything was just, like you said, it was just, I don't know.
Confession.
Confession.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know, what was used to start the fire. They didn't know how the girls were stacked on top of each other or why.
But both men were convicted, and they spent years in jail before getting anything on their appeals, or appeals were granted.
Mm-hmm.
And both men appealed their conviction on the basis of not being able to confront their accuser. What it was, if you're taken to trial, it's your Sixth Amendment right to be able to confront your accuser.
Yeah.
But because their tapes were used in court against each other, that's how they got their appeal.
Yeah, because they didn't have a chance to cross-examine.
That's right.
So it was basically like having a witness that you couldn't talk to.
Yeah. The higher courts agreed, and in 2006, the Court of Appeals threw out Robert Springsteen's conviction, and Michael's was thrown out 1 year later in 2007.
Yeah, but just because they threw out their convictions don't mean they let them go.
That's right.
Yeah.
But they had to remain in jail while the prosecution decided if they were going to retry the case. And in 2008, the defense teams for both men did something pretty bold. They requested to have the evidence retested using all the new DNA technology that was available at the time.
Right, and they had a new prosecutor, and she was determined to get them, so they're like, yeah, let's do this. So they resubmitted the DNA that they found from the sexual assault.
Mm-hmm. And if the DNA evidence doesn't come back in their favor, it could ruin everything.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But they think that's a testament of how much they were trying to get others to hear what they had to say and say these guys were innocent.
Yeah.
But they knew that this DNA would not come back matching them at all.
And it didn't.
It didn't.
It did not. So now, what you got?
I mean, you got to let these boys go.
You got to let them go.
Yeah. And this was groundbreaking. The defense thought
they had a home run for sure.
They did.
Yeah. Well, not the defense, the prosecution.
Yeah.
They thought they had a home run with this DNA evidence. So when it come back, nothing matched.
Mm-hmm.
So their case just fell apart because they didn't really have nothing anyway.
That's right. But this case goes cold, man. There's nobody serving time for these murders and rapes and fire and everything else in that yogurt shop, man.
No. I mean, even they had over all those written confessions, I think they eventually had something like 1,200 suspects that they went through. These four guys, let them go, bring them back, and then they bring in this Polanco guy, and he comes in there and just berates them to death. They're trying to get something, and they still don't have the right guy.
And at one point, they thought they were two Mexican nationals that had done this. They found two boys in Mexico that had actually confessed to the crime.
Yeah.
And they found out that these two boys had been tortured. They actually confessed to it, and they had been tortured in Mexico.
Yeah, they confessed to it down there, and then when the folks from the United States went down there to talk to them, they wanted to bring them back up here, and the Mexican officials said, no, we'll do it down here.
That's right.
And then they found out that they had been tortured in basically the same way, well, probably a lot worse, actually, to get them to confess to this murder that they didn't do either.
Mm-hmm. But at the time of these killings, Dale, there was a serial killer in the area.
Yeah.
And his name was Kenneth McDuff.
McDuff?
McDuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And this guy, we actually probably need to do an episode on this guy.
Okay.
Because he was in prison, and he'd actually gotten out. He was a killer, but had been released. What had happened in Texas, they were letting people go from prison because of overcrowding.
What?
Yes, and he was a killer, but he'd served several years in prison, and they let him go.
What did he tell him he was fine? He didn't want to kill nobody no more?
I guess.
I'm good. Don't worry about that guy sold a bag of weed. You can keep him in here and let me go.
Yeah. But he actually got out and had a job and was doing things. They claimed that about 3 days after he was released, he committed his first murder after being released from prison.
Yeah, but he changed a lot, didn't he?
Yeah. And when he was interviewed on this, he said he didn't do it, but if he had committed this murder at the yogurt shop, he would have been proud of it.
Oh, my. Yeah, and that's the guy that let go.
Yeah. But eventually he did go back to prison.
Well, good.
For more murders. And he actually had the nickname of the broomstick killer. But moving ahead a little bit to the year 2010, this was on December 23rd of 2010. There was an Austin, Texas police officer. His name was Frank Wilson, and he had his rookie partner with him, Bradley Smith. And Dale, they conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle that was being driven by Maurice Pierce. This was in the northern part of Austin. And actually there was a brief foot pursuit, and Maurice actually struggled with Officer Wilson before removing a knife from his belt and stabbing Officer Wilson in the neck. But Wilson did survive his injuries, and during this struggle he pulled out his firearm and shot and killed Maurice Pierce. He was one of the suspects.
So you think maybe this Maurice kid was the one who did it?
It's very possible.
I mean, he was mentally strong when they took him in to question him.
Yeah.
They didn't have nothing on him. They had the gun, but they couldn't match it to nothing. And then first thing he does is throw his friends under the bus.
He did.
Or the people he knew. I don't know how close of friends they were. But, so, maybe he's the guy that did it. I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Or involved in
Sure,
some
they
way.
would have checked his DNA, though, against it, you would think.
You'd think, unless he didn't do the rape at all.
True.
Him being the mastermind.
Maybe it was him and someone else. I don't know. But it's, I mean, dang, he for him to go that crazy on a traffic stop where they're going to pull out a knife and stab a police officer, he's got something going on.
Yeah.
Maybe he just had a bad day.
Could have been.
Well, if he didn't, he did afterwards.
But on December the 8th of 2021, it's not long ago, the House Judiciary Committee passed legislation from Representative Michael McCall giving families of cold case victims the opportunity to petition federal government to re-examine cold cases older than 3 years. Yep. And
I think that, I don't even understand why that has to be a law. That should be something you should be able to do anyway.
Yeah. That should be your right.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, a lot of things changed since those years. Look, how about run my stuff again? Of course, they'd probably make you pay for it if he didn't change the law.
Very true.
Right. When all them charges were dismissed against Michael and Robert, they let them out, but they just told them that don't mean they're found innocent. They just can't prove it. And, I guess really they could be recharged if the DA ever wanted to. And it said that the men can't sue them or say anything like they were wrongfully convicted. It's like, why not? You put me in prison for 10 years, and all of a sudden you said I didn't do it? Or you don't have enough evidence to prove that I did it?
Yeah.
And you think about that, but then again you think about these poor families. That one family lost both of their daughters, and then two other families lost their daughter, and they're going through all this mess.
Yeah.
And all these convictions and this weird confession stuff, and they think they got the right guy, and then they put them in prison, and then they let them back out because their rights were violated, and they're thinking, damn, I want you hear you crying about your rights when my kid's dead, and I lost both my daughters. But then again, if the guys didn't do it, I mean,
they didn't do it.
They didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's just bad all the way around,
Yeah. There's no winners in this.
And this Polanco guy, I think something needs to be done to him, because there's a long list of confessions that he was so famously forgetting because he was El Diablo, and he would take them in there and he would get those confessions from everybody, but now we know why.
Yeah. He was actually let go because of this at one time.
Well, he should have been.
And he sued and got his job back and was able to retire with full pension.
Wow.
Because, he had a bunch of false confessions.
Yeah. That was his gimmick.
Yeah.
That was the only police work he was doing. And, he was really held until they figured out what the heck he was doing. He was a great guy until he wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
That kind of dirty cop stuff, I don't like that at all.
No. But the owners of the yogurt shop, they did pay for the 4 girls' funeral.
Yeah.
They did. And the family did sue the owners of the yogurt shop, and they got a $12 million settlement. Yeah. And a lot of that money was used for scholarships and different things to make more awareness of crime and things there in Austin, Texas.
I wonder if that's like $3 million per girl, or was it only because 2 of them are employees did they get 6 apiece, or did everybody get 12?
I don't know what the distribution
never
was.
Never was said.
No, it was. But it was $12 million that was received.
But they sued them. Why? Because it was the way they did it, or something.
Yeah, because
late and they're so young.
Yeah, and just 2 girls working underage, I guess, and
under 18 and that late and alone.
Yeah.
Even though they said they have so many stores all over everywhere, and that's the way it's always been until this happened. But they did pay that, and then they did pay for everybody's funeral and everything else. So I don't know. I mean, that's bad for them too. They didn't have nothing to do with it really, but they stepped up and took care of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a sad story, man.
It is. It really is. And also, Dale, on August the 3rd of 2022, President Joe Biden, he signed the Homicide Victims Family Rights Act into law. And this was actually motivated by the yogurt shop murders. And this law is intended to help ensure that federal government enforcement reviews cold cases, and this applies to the latest technologies and investigative standards. And logistics are not clear in the bill, but it states that a request can be made for a cold case review by federal agencies, like we talked about.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good.
Yeah, that's good. But also, this case, they when in the very beginning they thought it might have been related to the Las Cruces bowling alley murders.
Yeah, we covered that one, right?
We did.
Yeah.
And because the same MO, set fire, some people were shot in the head.
And the building set on fire except for the sexual assaults.
Yeah.
And everybody wasn't naked and tied up.
True. But they thought it might have been related to that because, it is in the Southwest. So.
It's just weird, man. Why would he stack those girls on top of each other like they're wood?
I don't know.
This is just weird to me. This is a weird case, and it's really frustrating to me.
Can you imagine these young girls being there in that back room, gunpoint, being forced to strip naked, sexually assaulted?
Yeah, just tied up with their own clothes.
Yeah.
Shot in the head and stacked up like they're trash.
Yeah.
And then that one poor girl trying to get away, and they just stood there and shoot her in the head again.
Yeah.
Set the place on fire and walk out the door.
Come out the back door.
And there was some weird stuff about, we talked about that metal rack and stuff in the back that they had moved out to the back, outside in the alley back there, and some other stuff. And a lot of stuff that was inside that storage room just disappeared.
It did.
It never made it to the evidence lockers. And when nobody knows what happened to it.
Those shelves, there was a phone on the wall that was actually melted, but it just disappeared.
Right. What the heck?
A lot of stuff from the shop was gone.
So really, I don't know. It's just a big old cluster.
Yeah, it is.
And it's sad for these families.
Yeah. I think there was some bad police work in the beginning that hindered this investigation.
Well, right off the bat, it was bad because they had no idea there was a murder had happened. The place is on fire. Firemen come in there to do their job, and they're just blasting everything, which they don't know. And then, John Jones gets there, and he's trying his best to take over the scene and do stuff, and everybody's bucking him right off the bat. And you can't get anywhere, and then you have half-assed forensic work done. I don't know. It was just an uphill battle.
Detective John Jones, he hasn't let this go, even though he's not on the case anymore and he's retired.
No.
He hasn't let it go.
No.
And he still has that
severe insomnia.
And he still has that green and white striped shirt in his closet.
Yeah, that 48 Hours episode, man. He goes there and he pulls that thing out. He's got it in a zip-up black case like he would a tuxedo or something.
Mm-hmm.
And pulls it out, and he's got that shirt in there. We're still waiting a day that he could wear it.
Yeah, and show up.
What do you call it? The hideous shirt now.
Yeah,
because
he
it's
can
way out of...
have that shirt. But the families of these girls, they eventually moved away from the Austin area.
Yeah.
And some of them actually moved to Austin area because they thought it was a safe place.
Safer place to be.
Mm-hmm. It's a sad situation, man. These girls are gone.
I think Eliza's mother's passed away now.
Yes, she has.
And the two sisters and Amy are all buried side by side.
Yeah. Eliza's, she's buried in a different cemetery.
Yeah.
And they thought at one time to have her placed beside the other girls, but I don't think it's ever happened. They actually talked about that at one time.
Mm.
I don't know the whole details behind she's...
Well, it's probably, that I don't think she was as close as the other girls as far as being best friends. And she's probably wherever her family cemetery is. But in these other girls, they just put them all together because they felt it was right to do.
Yeah. Crazy. We got pictures we'll post and different things, but this is a sad, sad case, man.
Yeah, sad case with no ending.
No, nobody's serving time for this.
No, I don't have a clue.
No. All right, Dale, that is the Austin Yogurt Shop murders, man.
Man, that's a rough one.
Yep. All right, bud, we're going to get out of here, man.
Well, all right, let's roll.
We want everyone to be safe. Please be careful and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.